All right, welcome everybody. I hope you guys are doing very well tonight. It is nearly midnight on January the 2nd, 2025, almost Friday. And I love Fridays. So, welcome to you, Mary. It's good to see you. I ain't missing this live. Hoppy. Welcome, my friend. Okay, so this is an old interview. This is the interview with Bobby, who is Christopher Proudfoot, Katie Proudfoot's neighbor. And it's not really, I've only recently begun to do reaction videos where I show pieces of other people's interviews. Because number one, I think they ought to get the views. I don't think we should be, sniping off other people's work. But this is a very old video. And the thing that I think makes it in a contemporary way definitely gives it interest that is current for today. And that is that there are some crazy, nutty stories that are now coming out about this woman. And look, you guys know who's saying it. It's the usual culprits. And so because they literally said that this woman's teenage twins, who don't even know that Sebastian lives in the neighborhood, they have no idea who the kid is, that J is for Justice. Well, maybe it was Queen Bee's channel. Somebody. I don't remember if it's Queen Bee or J is for Justice. Granny's Watching was on that panel. There was a number of Cluminati, I think, was on the channel. And they were saying now that Bobby, the Proudfoot neighbor, here she is right here, that Bobby, who is the Proudfoot neighbor, that she and her children are suspicious. I mean, you can't make this nonsense up, okay? These people are out of control, truly. So dishonest. The level of dishonesty is shocking. And so the idea, SF investigates, who charges $15,000 by his own admission. He claims that the two twins of this woman, this neighbor, that the flashlights seen in the security video, that was actually her sons playing flashlight tag, and they could have been playing flashlight tag with Sebastian, and they are responsible for him going missing. It's crazy. Okay? So I thought, you know what? I'm going to stop this nonsense right now. I know this interview was covered a lot when it first came out by JLR Investigates, and I've got the link to this video in the chat. I've also got it scrolling along the bottom of the video, the review that we're doing today. So because this unscrupulous group of Christopher Proudfoot sycophants are now spreading absolute crazy slander, I think Bobby and her husband ought to sue them for slander. It's very strange. So I wanted to show this and kind of talk about what it is that we're seeing and hearing during this interview in a contemporary way. Everybody's already seen it in terms of the information to be gleaned from the disappearance of Sebastian. But more important, I want to go back through this and listen and see, does she strike you as a credible, honest woman, or is she suspect? Does she answer in strange ways? Does she give you the impression that she's not telling the truth? Because this group of people have completely lost their damn minds. They're saying the craziest things. Please remember, by Katie Proudfoot's own admission, she was at home with Sebastian, the last one to see him. The dogs did not bark in the middle of the night. She did not hear anything. He did not have his shoes or coat on, but supposedly he left out of the front door. No cameras picked him up at all. She is the one. She is the one. And we also have, by Christopher Proudfoot's own admission, his truck was caught up in the geofencing net that absolutely, under no circumstances, would they have been checking open connections during a search where the neighborhood is completely full of people. That would have been absolutely pointless. Those geofencing tests, what they are looking for is they are looking for a couple of different things. What phones or trucks, cars were in the neighborhood at the time of the crime. That's number one. And where were they located at the time of the crime? They're looking for phones that are not normally in the neighborhood, trucks or cars that are not really supposed to be there. There would be absolutely zero evidentiary value. They would know nothing at all about Sebastian and his disappearance by looking to see all of the devices at 8, 9, 10 a.m., 1 p.m. on the 26th. Nothing. They learn nothing. So Christopher Proudfoot is a liar, and he got caught. His mouth overloaded his behind, and he tried to say, no, they caught my truck at 1 in the afternoon. No, Christopher Proudfoot, I am calling you a bald-faced liar on this point alone. You are 100% lying. It would be zero reason. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever for the cops to look and see what kind of devices do we have in the neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 26th. It's nonsense. Nonsense. So by their own admissions, they've got serious problems. This woman, however, doesn't have a single red flag, nor do her two twins. And yet this group of paid actors, in my opinion, it is slanderous what they're saying about Bobby and about her two kids. It is slanderous. Bobby, file a suit against them. I'm telling you, it is shocking what these people are saying. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. They've already started the interview. They're in a few minutes. And let's see if there's any red flags with Bobby. It's crazy.
Simply just saying, my son is missing. And kind of commented on
all right, I think this will be better.
Trauma, okay. Just dramatic day that I don't even think, the only thing I was in on day one was our neighborhood group, because that's where Katie had first commented about him being gone. So no, actually I wasn't in any Facebook groups day one. It was such a crazy moment.
It is
so probably
Abigail.
Yeah, when you say Katie commented, what do you mean by that? She joined a neighborhood group?
Well, so I'm an admin of our private neighborhood group, and she created a post. I want to say around, I want to say 7:30 maybe ish, 7:30 that morning, Monday morning. Simply just saying, my son is missing, and kind of commented on a little bit about him. Like, I think she made the comment about how tall he was, and that he was autistic and he was missing. Please check your cameras. It was just like a 2-liner, just real quick, shooting it out there.
So like maybe like an hour and a half, hour something after she and Chris that we found out that they called and reported Sebastian missing.
Correct. It was, yes, because I think that from what I understood, she called around 6:30 that morning. I think wasn't about 6:30. I think is okay. So yeah, it was, and I think from what another neighbor said, that she actually caught her SUV leaving the neighborhood right before that or right after that. And so it was, she did all that and then came back, and then I guess that's when she put it on the Facebook page. But
so Slim Shady, yeah, I mean, of course, everybody's got their opinions and they're entitled to, we don't have to all believe like we believe. But I think what is curious to me is, even if she is the neighborhood gossip, kind of like the clothesline lady, right? Those ladies usually do know everything happening in the neighborhood. So I wouldn't know things in my neighborhood because I'm always working. I'm always busy, and I don't pay attention to other people, like what they're doing in their yards, and I just don't notice it, right? I'm either working or I'm on my way to work. On the other hand, I've got 2 neighbors and they both stay home all day. And man, the stories that they tell, they are watching everything. They know when people are gone on vacation. They'll actually go around and pick people's stuff up so nobody knows you're gone on vacation without even being asked, saying they don't want to attract attention and bad elements to the neighborhood, So yeah, you could be right. Perhaps she is the town gossip. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that what she's saying isn't accurate, right? All right.
But I also remember what I thought was very odd was shortly before that, another neighbor. So if their house is here, if you're going up Stafford, a little bit farther up Stafford, was actually the first one to ask, "Hey, what's all going on in the neighborhood?" Because my older son, left to go to work that morning, approximately 8 o'clock, and there was already police all up and down Stafford, like just.
Okay. So her son leaves at 8 a.m. The neighborhood is already now crawling with cops. That number will grow as the day unfolds, right? I ask you again, what in the world would be of use to the cops finding a missing kid or a criminal element that could have abducted Sebastian? How does how does the tracking help at all when the neighborhood is filled with cops and their cars, and all of those are going to show up in a geofencing net? It doesn't. Not a bit. It means nothing to the cops. So the notion that Christopher Proudfoot's truck was there at 8 a.m. or, as he said on a YouTube channel, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, is simply not real. That's nonsense. The cops wouldn't do it, and the judge damn sure wouldn't do it. The judge would be like, "What? How can you learn anything when there were 50 extra vehicles and cars in that neighborhood looking for this kid? You don't learn anything doing a geofencing net after he's already been gone for potentially, 8 hours." So no matter what you say, I mean, everybody wants to say, believe the evidence, believe the evidence, believe the evidence. Now you have evidence, and I hear you guys still saying you don't want to believe the evidence. Christopher Proudfoot himself said in a fit of anger that his truck was in fact found during the geofencing net. They are not going to run a net unless there is an a judge who signs a warrant to do that. You must have a search warrant. It just is real. It's just, and I know Don B said the other night, well, with kids, it's different. All I know is this. If you want to go to court, you better get your warrant. Otherwise, it's going to get tested and they're going to throw it out. You also can't have a warrant that is too broad. It's too general. You can't just say, I want to run the geofencing net for 24 hours. No, a judge is not going to let that happen unless you have some kind of proof that there was an ongoing crime for 24 hours or maybe 12 hours. That's not the proof they had. The only proof they had was a car that was active in the neighborhood in the early morning hours, 3:15, and 2 flashlights that appear to come from the Proudfoot home. That information, that evidence right there would have been enough to make a judge say, of course, we should do a geofencing net at this time, at 3 a.m., when everybody should be in their own respective homes. You shouldn't have a lot of strangers running around in your neighborhood. Let's check now, 3:15. Let's see if there was anybody there that shouldn't have been there. Let's see who we pick up around the Proudfoot property. That's when they did the net. I'm convinced of it. Just knowing, I mean, it was a law enforcement officer, a Texas state trooper that explained it to me. So I have no doubt that this is how it's done. And I do not think they're doing this looking the other way. It is a federal offense to violate your civil protections, and we are protected in terms of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The cops cannot just say, hey, I want to look at you and what your movements for 24 hours. They cannot do that to us. There has to be evidence of a crime that you may have been a part of. So Proudfoot has told on himself and lied. Oh, it was 1:00 in the afternoon. No, it wasn't. We know it wasn't. And the reason we know that it wasn't is because there would have been zero reason to do a geofencing net at that time. It would have shown them nothing. She claims law enforcement had such a video, people would be in jail. Wait, and it's lies. If law enforcement had such a video, people. What had video of what, Alessia? Bobby told Justin that she heard Seth left work for 3 hours overnight of the 25th into the 26th. I don't believe that. I don't believe that, because I believe that if that were true, I think Seth would have been arrested. Yeah, Christopher Proudfoot says a lot of things. It doesn't mean he's telling the truth. He's been caught in a lot of lies.
Covering it. And they were already out walking around and stuff. And so I don't know. I guess she saw some of that traffic as she was leaving to go to work. And she posted first on the Facebook page. And then Katie, after that, is when she posted. And I went back to find that. And that previous neighbor deleted her post.
What about Katie's post?
I don't know. No, the original post, the first post.
Yeah. It's no longer
the neighbor,
there.
It's gone. She had to have deleted it because you can't, if you're not the creator of the post, you can't delete someone else's post. They have to delete it. But when I went back a couple weeks after everything happened and things kind of calmed down a little bit, I was talking to somebody else and I was like, I remember, didn't such and such make the post first? And this is a neighbor down the street from me. And she said, yeah, I remember that. And I was like, I wonder what the time frame was different. And I went back to look and it was gone. So the original neighbor that very first posted asking what was all the commotion going on.
Well, can I say this? So Alessia says, Bobby apparently claims there's a video of Seth in Christopher Proudfoot's truck overnight and Katie Proudfoot bringing Sebastian to them over her shoulder. I ask you, what's the likelihood of that? Any part of that? You really believe? You've seen the footage of Sebastian now. Katie did give pictures of him before puberty when he's a little fella, but the Texas Roadhouse footage proves he is a young man that had gone through puberty and he was a big boy. And do you honestly believe that Katie is going to pick up a kid who is almost her same height, more than 100 pounds, throw him over her shoulder, and then walk him through that backyard where she's got to hop over a little stream? Does it seem rational to believe this? This is silly. And if Bobby is saying that, my question is, what's wrong with Bobby? Like, why would she say something so ludicrous unless she is just all out terrified of Christopher Proudfoot? Maybe she's afraid of him.
And I still wonder if that's why Katie posted that. But then it was like 2 or 3 neighbors after. So Katie posted her comment or her post, and then several people commented after. I didn't see anything because she was asking like everybody check their cameras. I didn't see anything. And then Chris posted underneath that and
I agree,
simply said something like, yeah, my son's missing. That was it.
Oh. So what did it say like where the post was originating from, or was Chris around the neighborhood by then?
Okay, so I have twins, and when we first heard about everything, they jumped up and went running out of the house and went across the street down to where they live, and they walked over because they wanted to be a part of helping, look for him. And they weren't over there, and Chris was not there yet. So Seth was in there 8:30.
8:30, okay.
8:20 ish, yeah. Because my oldest son had already left for work. He left about 8. Then my twins, when I got the phone call from the neighbor very nearby them, that is a good friend of mine, about 8:15, 8:20 that morning, asking if I had heard what would happen, and I had not yet because I hadn't gotten going for the day yet. And then when my son texted me, I didn't answer, so he called my other boy's phone and asked them, hey, do y'all see what's going on? And they came around my room and said, hey, Mom, did you hear what happened? And I was like, wait, what's going on? My phone's ringing. You guys are running in here. Like, what is happening here? And my neighbor was on the phone calling me. And so as soon as I heard the neighbor tell me the story, what happened, they went running out the door and went over there to kind of help, with the search and stuff. And they said that they saw Seth and Katie in the front yard and of course they didn't know the names back then. They just knew, like, now that they've seen pictures, they go back and say, yeah, it was Seth and Katie and Kathy Bauer Socks and a bunch of other police, law enforcement and stuff like that. But Chris was not there yet.
Interesting.
Well,
now,
he wasn't there then.
Now, where do you live relative?
And my understanding, y'all correct me, is that Chris has said that he arrived around 1:00 in the afternoon. Is that still the current belief? No, she was not Special Forces. There's video images that show Chris Proudfoot's truck was in town that weekend. Exactly, Abigail. I agree. Seth's shift gets done at 6 a.m. Okay, so yeah, so he's claiming 1:00. He got home that afternoon on the 26th at 1:00 in the afternoon. So he wouldn't have been there. Which makes it uncomfortable for me. Even so with Katie, so, she wakes up, she's horrified. Her child is not there. She is thinking quickly and she thinks, okay, well, maybe he walked to school. I would have done exactly the same thing. I'd have jumped in my car and driven up to school. I know there's some people that question that and think it was strange. I don't think so. I think that part makes absolute sense to me. The part that does not make sense to me, why would she call Christopher Proudfoot in Memphis before calling the father of the missing kid? Like, why wouldn't she say, oh my gosh, he must have run away. I wonder if he called Seth. Why wouldn't you pick up the phone and call the biological father and say, have you heard from Sebastian? He's not here. I think that would have been my phone call first before calling Chris Proudfoot. My first phone call would have been to the father of the kid saying, please tell me he's reached out to you. Please tell me you have him. So I found that curious. I do not find it curious that she ran up to the school. It got done at 7:30 a.m. I'm not being mean. I'm being honest. Her witness statements will be rejected in court if she has a history of hearsay. It's a known fact in criminal justice. No, I don't think you're being mean either, Slim Shady. I think if all she's doing is repeating what other people are saying, then I think she will have a problem with credibility. Have you seen the video showing kids in that neighborhood making fake calls to adults saying they were adults supposedly hanging out in the house Sebastian lived in prior to the Proudfoots moving in? What do you mean, Rosebud? What does that mean? Have you seen the video showing kids in the neighborhood fake calls to adults? I don't think I understand, Rosebud. I'm sorry. All right.
To the Proudfoots.
I live at the very top of the hill
Thank you,
on
Rosebud.
Helen.
So the next street, the street that turns into Stafford.
The main street.
Main Street coming in. So just basically what you're now going back to Katie, like what you know or what you heard. When was Katie driving around in her SUV? Like a time frame? Like when do you think she was driving around in her SUV looking for passion, like she claims?
Right. So there's so many different things here because the neighbor that I actually spoke with, that I'm friends with, she's the one that has the camera on the corner of Stafford and Kellen. And I'm not going to mention her name, but she's the one that the camera footage got leaked without her knowledge and her permission, that everybody has seen. But I've directly spoken with her. And then I also have directly spoken with a couple other neighbors that live very close to the Proudfoot's house. And the neighbor that I spoke with the very first time that morning, she said that when she was taking her kids to school, Katie was already back from looking. She had just got back from looking, and the kids have to be in school at 7:30. And so she normally leaves the house at 7 to take her kids to school. But Katie was already back and in the front yard, and all the cops and stuff were there. So she stopped for a minute to talk to her, took her to school. My neighbor that had the camera.
So I think this was an interesting revelation to me. And I don't know if maybe I just wasn't focused in on it when all this first happened. The timeline's a little bit tight, right? The school is a really good marker because it's standard, and it's standard for everybody in the neighborhood. If you got kids, your kids got to be there at 7 o'clock or 7:30. So if Katie says that she got up, didn't she say 6:30? And Sebastian wasn't there, that's pretty tight to go from, where is he? Kind of leisurely walking, going, hey, Sebastian, where are you? Looking everywhere, and then beginning to get panicked, looking outside, and then full blown, oh my God, jumping in your car and thinking maybe he's at the school. And the other thing that I'm not sure that I've ever heard was, did she actually go into the school? Like, did she go into the school and say, has Sebastian gotten here? And I haven't heard anybody say, that. So I think she may have a bit of a problem with her timeline if this does end up going to trial. Cindy, correct. It doesn't have anything. Let's see what we're talking about. Hold on. I'm looking. Cindy said, no, he actually works in Davison County Jail. Not that it matters. Yeah, I agree. They were making believe that there were adults on social media platforms talking to each other adults. Yeah, this whole thing about where Seth works and his work history, and what does that matter to Sebastian being gone? I don't care what happened when Seth was 25 years old. I care very much what happened in January of 2024 to Sebastian. That matters. That is relevant. But his work history, whether he was injured or whether he's a crappy employee I don't care. That doesn't have anything to do with whether someone is violent to their child or not. So I thought it was real bad form for the human resources records to be put on, putting Seth on blast all over the internet. The only reason it was done was shame. It's the only reason it was done was to try and humiliate Seth, which is kind of crazy because Seth has lost his kid. And he seems to be the only one in the whole extended family that gives a shit that Sebastian is gone. So you're taking a guy who's already horribly traumatized, and now you're piling shame and humiliation, public humiliation on? What kind of human being are you? It literally has no relevance at all to Sebastian running away or being abducted. None. Means nothing. Only reason you did that was to create shame and humiliation. And that makes you a piece of you-know-what person. You are a bad person. If you're willing to take someone in grief, they're grieving the loss of the child they love. They have almost driven themselves crazy searching for the missing kid. And then you decide to engage in public humiliation. You look kind of like a monster for people that are being honest.
Footage told me that her timeline is not working correctly, but when she puts it all together with the sunrise and then the bus coming through and all of that, she said it was approximately about 6 o'clock, 6:15, 6:20. It was right in between supposedly when she discovered him missing. Supposedly she gets up, she runs around the house, she gets dressed, and she drives out of the neighborhood and that kind of thing and goes looking for him. But I know the neighbor next, if you're looking at the Proudfoot's house on the left, when she went running out of her house hysterical, the neighbor next to her was already out. You know, of course, everybody's getting up, getting ready for work, getting kids ready for school. Bus comes 6:45, 6:50-ish. 6:45, 6:50. It's been a long time since my kids have ridden the bus, so I have to really think about that one. But it's definitely before 7 because the kids have to be in school in class by 7:30. And we're the last pick up before he actually goes to school because we're right next to the school. So, you know, everybody was getting up and getting ready for work and everything. So she actually saw her out and she asked her what was going on. And she told her. And so she actually walked around the house and was helping her look around the house. So she was already back from looking around 7.
Interesting. When she left to go look for Sebastian, I know that if you turn right going out of the Proudfoot, you go up the top of the hill, it's a cul-de-sac, or you go around and you can go up your street all the way at the back where the...
Well, I don't think for this particular school, Chief Rocca's True Crime Truth, I don't think that would have been too early. This lady, Bobby, just said that the kids have to be in their seats ready for school to start at 7:30. That the last pickup is 6:45, 6:50. So the school's going to be open. The teachers are usually there like 30, 45 minutes before the kids start arriving. They do early breakfast, but they offer free federal lunches. So that is offered 30 minutes before as the buses are arriving. So I don't think in this case, Chief Rocca's, I don't think it would be, I don't think it'd be too early. I think it would be okay given the fact that their school day's starting at 7:30.
The construction is. Did she, before she ventured out of the neighborhood, did she go up those roads? Do you know of to look?
Did she go up my road?
Your road or her road itself to the top of the cul-de-sac? Where
the
her
only
road
thing
ends.
I was right. So the only thing I was told, of course, we nobody in my house was up or out yet, so I can't verify that because we weren't out yet. But the neighbor that told me that she saw her SUV drive across her driveway saw her leave.
Like
so
leave out
that's right.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So
you would think that maybe you stay in the neighborhood a little bit and go up and down your own streets. Looking around.
Well, that was when she went to the school thinking that he had walked to the school on his own, which I don't know why. He's never done that before. So why would he do that? I mean, like, why would he just walk to school by himself? Plus, he had no shoes on, supposedly. So, like, why would he walk to school by himself? So, but that's what I was told. She actually walked around her house outside, didn't find him. So she got in her car and drove to the school.
And was back by 7. Around that time.
So at least probably actually before that.
Yeah. Does Sebastian, did he take the bus to school or did Katie take him in her car?
From what the neighbors, of course, I don't have kids that ride the bus anymore. But from what the neighbor nearby said that he did ride the bus. Now, the neighbor on the corner that has a surveillance camera said that there is a special bus that comes for certain kids that have special needs and whatever. And she said, I don't think he gets on that bus. I think he gets on the other bus. So that was what I was told. I can't verify that, so I can't answer that appropriately.
Got you. So we're talking all law enforcement, all there, starting to descend onto the area, 8 a.m. ish, right? 8 a.m. ish.
Well, they were there before that. They were already there, and cars parked. By the time when my son went to work at 8, they were already there and already clumped up together and starting to talk, because they were already in the front yard talking to them. So they were, I don't know exact. I mean, I would say probably it was even before.
So listen, so so they start responding at 7, right? So Christopher and Katie are on the phone together at 6:45, 7 a.m., right? It takes 3.5 hours. So that would be 7 to 8 to 9 to 10:30. And then 10:30, 11:30, 12:30 to 1. I wonder what Christopher Proudfoot did for 2.5 hours. I think that is, I think that's kind of odd, right? If you have a missing child in your family and somebody calls for your help, aren't you, like the kid lives in your house, are you going to drop everything and run and get there? So I think that's another interesting question. Why, if the cops are already there at 7 o'clock, legit, why in the world what did you do for 2.5 hours? And it better be something that can be verified by the cops, right? The reason why I said that is, got away from me. Sorry. The reason why I said that is because when Christopher called the sheriff's office, she wasn't home, and CP told her to go home. Sheriffs were at the house at 7:04. Yeah. So if the classes start at 7:30, they're probably serving breakfast by 7 a.m. Maybe doors open 6:45. Yeah, you may be right, Chief Rockus. I would. I mean, I know it's super early, but everybody's got a different time frame, I guess. But it's possible. I just had wondered if maybe she did go in and question, ask. But I hadn't heard anybody say so. Maybe the doors were locked and it was too early.
Before, I mean, they were probably there. I'm trying to remember what she said when she got ready to leave. She never said anything. The neighbor that called me and told me about it never mentioned law enforcement being there. She just said that Katie was outside walking around, upset and everything. And she asked her, like, what's going on? But she didn't specify if there were law enforcement there. But they were already there and out of their cars and in the front yard at 8 o'clock. So they had to have been there before that.
Gotcha. Any idea when Seth got there?
No, but I do know that he was there by the time my kids went over there, like I said, which was about 8:30. He was already there. And I also know that his truck was there, like off and on the whole time.
Gotcha.
But I don't know what time exactly.
So what happens just explain to everybody then, what did law enforcement do at that point, like throughout the morning? Once they all arrived there, did more and more law enforcement come, or was there certain?
I told my neighbor down the street, I said, I didn't even know we had these agencies. I mean, like I've never in my life ever seen such a response. It was overwhelming. It was like, it kind of freaked me out. Like, oh my God, I feel like I'm living in a real life, like drama crime scene. It was.
You were, I think. I think this is a really good point desired, that Christopher Proudfoot dilly-dallies around for 2.5 hours. There's this discussion that perhaps, I don't know, Julie, I'd like to, know a little bit more about where the information came from, that he showed up for work, but he was acting erratically, and it was so bad that they removed him off the crane. The question that I would have, though, is if you've got a kid, especially special needs kid, who lives in your home with you, he's part of your family, and you get a phone call that he goes missing, your wife is alone dealing with this terrible trauma, why are you going to work? Why are you sitting there for 2.5 hours trying to work? It is simply not real. That is not normal human behavior. So it would be interesting to know where this report came from. Like, where did you guys hear this? So, hi, dog. How are you? It's good to see you. Ask the neighborhood watchman why he is banging on doors and scaring people away. Have they searched Sebastian's backyard for footprints? 833 tell dog. Aloha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Christopher Proudfoot's behavior is very strange. Really, really strange. And I said it before at the beginning of this, if Bobby had, okay, so I like this interview, and I'll tell you why. I like this interview because it happened in the early days of Sebastian going missing. Her memory is going to be clearest at this time, and nobody's had time to intimidate her and frighten her. If she has dramatically changed her story at this point, well, I think that you and I have, we've all heard these, we've all heard Proudfoot and sometimes Katie on these podcasts, and the man loses his mind. It's like he has some kind of explosive anger problem. I would not be surprised if he's intimidating people. And I think with their paid, sycophants like SF Investigates, I think SF's job is, he's a fixer. He is not looking for Sebastian, in my opinion. He is trying to make everybody be quiet. And those people that are putting out factual information and authentic information, SF is intentionally muddying the waters. He's intentionally engaging in propaganda, psychological warfare that is designed to make it difficult to pick out what is fact and what is not fact. This is a bad group of people, y'all. This is a really bad group of people. In my opinion, it is a bad group of people.
Was the craziest thing I've ever seen. The very first that came out was the sheriff's department, because we live in the county. So sheriff's department respond first because, we're not part of the city. So they came out first, and they literally walked all up and down and around and everything. And then they came door to door and asked everybody, who all had cameras and whatnot. What did you see? What do you know? Whatever. And then it was, now, of course, I'm having to really go back in my head. It's been a little while. It was later on that afternoon, they brought some dogs in, and they started walking around. They came around the houses and asked everybody to walk around their own property, look underneath stuff, in anything that's unlocked. So all of us up and down my street, everybody, my neighbors came out with me. She and I walked together, walked all up and down our yards, all across the street, up and through the cul-de-sac, down the street a little bit. There's barbed wire fence behind us as of right now, where the new construction is, so you can't get over that, but we could walk around it. And so we both walked up and around that, just looked everywhere that was kind of close by. And then I noticed that they had the drones up. And of course, the news was short. That was Tuesday. The news came out and was flying the helicopter around. It was chaotic. It was absolutely chaotic.
Did you see Seth and Katie out there looking? No.
Not in our neighborhood. Never.
Never seen them walk around.
No. They were in their yard out, but never left their property. No. And I know for a fact because so Monday my kids were out with law enforcement, because at that point it was, we need all the neighbors come out, help us, look everywhere, whatever. So they were open to everybody coming in and help. So at that point, my kids jumped into one of those razor things and drove all up and through the property. And
okay, this is one of the points that this group of people has now used to attack back and draw suspicion on Bobby. They're saying that it's strange that her kids would be with law enforcement, and they're presenting it as if like the twins were walking side by side with the cops. I'm going to ask you to listen again to her explanation of what her kids were doing that morning and why. And tell me, do you get the feeling she's saying they were walking side by side directly with law enforcement? Or did they have a reason to get out and search? So listen again to how she describes it.
No. And I know for a fact because so Monday my kids were out with law enforcement, because at that point it was, we need all the neighbors come out, help us, look everywhere, whatever. So they were open to everybody coming in and help. So at that point, my kids jumped into one of those razor things and drove all up and through the property and stuff. And then my other one walked with the canine unit in the construction zone.
So she's saying that her twins got into the razor because they could cover more ground, and they were going all up like into the wooded areas and all around these properties, right? Not that they're acting as part of the law enforcement searching. SF investigates intentionally, with intent. He said this was so suspicious. It's like the boys had something they were worried about, and they were trying to keep an eye on what law enforcement was doing. And what kind of dog handler would allow a person to walk with them, that they don't do that? You know, they want to keep the people back. This is not hard to figure out. These are young people, 15 years old up to like 18 years old. These are young people, and they were interested in what was going on. And I can see it in my head, right? They're watching these dogs. They probably stood back away from them, or perhaps they went up like on a hill where they'd have a little bit wider view of what was happening down in the neighborhood. Not that they were like handling the dogs. And yet when you go and listen to SF Investigates on this panel, he outright absolutely draws attention that Bobby and her kids should be investigated for harming Sebastian. One of these mental giants actually said that the twins were playing flashlight tag, and that Sebastian was playing with them, and he probably fell and hit his head. And what did they do with him? This is criminal. It is, and I'll tell you something else this does too, with what SF is doing and his little, Chris Proudfoot fan club. They're creating an environment that reduces the chances that people are willing to come forward with information. They're creating an environment that people are going to be very afraid to come out and tell law enforcement what they know. People are already nervous about law enforcement. People, psychologically, people feel like they don't want to get caught up in a criminal trial or investigation where they might have to testify or anything like that. So a lot of people say, no, somebody else will tell it. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And then really important details never get reported, right? But what they're doing, SF Investigates and his little band of, rocket scientists, they're intentionally creating an air of suspicion that is going to make locals terrified to speak up and speak out. But isn't that what CP does? Isn't that what we've listened to on these panels? Christopher Proudfoot goes up, he's triggered to hell and back, and he starts issuing threats. He outright threatened the private investigator that he was going to harm her. He's a bad guy, y'all.
Walked all the way through that. They literally, I had to call them at one point in time and tell them, y'all need to come home and have lunch. I mean, this is crazy. I know you want to help, but you got to come home and eat. And so then they came home, they ate, and then they went back out there, and they were out there with them all day Monday, all day Tuesday. And then, so Tuesday we had SWAT. That was the day we had the vigil. And it was interesting because we put out a post on the neighborhood group that we're having a vigil, and everybody's invited, but we want it to be just the neighborhood only because we want it to be a private vigil just for our neighborhood and for the family. We were hoping if we made it more personal like that the family would come and they wouldn't be overwhelmed with all this. That was the other thing. Good God, the traffic. The second that it got out, we had tons of people just driving up and down the street.
And again, what good is a geofencing net when you've got hundreds of people in the neighborhood and Sebastian's been missing for 6 to 8 hours? What good is it? You learn nothing. You're not even going to get a judge willing to give you the warrant. I don't know how much clearer. I'm telling you, Christopher Proudfoot's goose is cooked. I'm convinced of it.
Just looking and watching, I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do to help. We're flooded already with police. I don't know what outsiders coming in are going to do. I mean, it was chaotic as it was anyway, and now you got all these extra people coming out there, so it just got so chaotic. But so Tuesday night we planned the vigil, went down there, got in a big circle, introducing everybody, and there's neighbors. I don't want to get too personal here. There are neighbors. Actually, we have I think 2, maybe 3 sets of neighbors that are in law enforcement. They're in different counties. One of them is actually a part of Hendersonville Police, and then the other 2 are from other counties. They came to the vigil. And matter of fact, the one that is part of Hendersonville has been in a neighborhood since almost the beginning. Know them very well, good people. And he was down there with a flashlight because we had so many people driving up and down and around and circling and going up and down and circling and coming back and forth. And we're just like, good grief. The Proudfoot sent, I don't know who it was, but they came down and we were all introducing ourselves, and they introduced themselves as aunt and uncle.
That's so strange.
Aunt and uncle.
Proudfoot's.
That's so weird.
Apparently, I don't know if it was somebody's brother, or that's what they introduced themselves as. We are, maybe it was Sebastian's aunt and uncle.
Chris and
Katie said it was.
Chris and Katie said they were their aunt and uncle.
Well, it wasn't. Chris and Katie didn't come. They sent family members, and when they introduced themselves as we're aunts and uncles.
Why
So I
didn't
guess Sebastian's aunt and uncle?
Why didn't did Seth go?
No.
So no Seth, no Proudfoots. They basically sent their own representatives, family members that claim
Yes.
they ran.
But again,
That's correct.
to be fair, I don't think that's unusual. It had just happened. It was really kind of like a prayer thing for the neighborhood. The parents are deep in shock at this point, or something else. So I don't think that would be unusual at that point, just within days of Sebastian going missing. But I think it is just bizarre as hell that Katie and Christopher have been to none of these observances. But they did go to the Harley Davidson store, and they did go to their fancy steakhouse. So I don't know if you guys have ever been in one of these situations where you are awash in the unknown and you're having incredible amounts of stress and anxiety that you're dealing with. Eating is not really comfortable. Like, you're really not, some people can't even swallow, right? They're so disturbed by what's happening and unfolding that they just feel detached, and food is like the last thing on their mind. A lot of them will faint because they can go days and days with no eating. I've also seen people in this situation, for comparison. I've also seen people in this situation that are heavily, heavily medicated because they're just in such an enormous, state of shock and panic. And we just don't see panic at all. And that is so unusual to have your child go missing. You should be erratic. Like, you should be frantic. Where is he? Where is he? Somebody's got to find him. Who's going to take care of him? Oh my God. No, I can't stay here. I've got to go out and find him. What are we going to do? It's going to be cold. And you just got none of that. It's so, oh, look at this picture. He's got a little chocolate milk on his mouth. Looky there. What the hell are you talking about? Your kid is missing. You're looking at a photograph talking about chocolate milk, or was it a bruise? Just curious.
Yes.
I got two questions back on the first day. When do you know that Chris arrived home?
I did not, because I didn't know. I had never met them. They moved in and nobody knew them. Like, I still don't know anybody that really knows them. Like, nobody ever really knew them. And so
when did they move in? Do you know?
I think, well, so apparently it was a year and a half ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they just stayed to themselves, and nobody really even knew them. I didn't even know that the original owners sold their house, and not because we don't, our neighborhood is just a real quiet neighborhood. Everybody kind of stays to themselves, except for, if you need something, or if a dog, a pet gets out.
Okay, notice what she just said. For the people who are saying, I don't believe her because she's the town gossip, yada, yada. She just said she didn't know that the house had even been sold to somebody else. The two ladies in my neighborhood, they would have known when it sold, what the offer was, who the real estate agents were, where the guy was getting his loan from. I mean, they really are like their own little neighborhood watch force of nature. So, maybe, Bobby seems to have a lot of friends. Maybe she's lived there for decades. But if she's such a town gossip, why didn't she know the house had been sold? It's not a very big neighborhood.
Or if somebody goes on vacation, hey, will you watch my house? That kind of thing. But we don't really, unfortunately, I think everybody's just have busy lives and stuff, and we just don't know. I mean, like each neighbor knows the neighbor next to them. Like I know all the neighbors around me, and I know a lot of their original neighbors that were there from day one, but I don't know the ones that have moved in over the past 5 years. And I think with COVID, that kind of messed everything up too.
Got you. Somebody put in the chat, what time does the trash get picked up in the morning?
That is the biggest misconception. Here we go with the whole light thing, right? This is where we're going. So
one more thing first. The very first day, the dogs. You saw dogs out there.
Oh yes,
did you
absolutely.
See them going a specific direction or area? Did you see them centered around a certain area, or did they pick up any scent?
Okay, so there was no scent that was picked up from their house to anywhere. However, and my kids were with the handler and the canine and actually watched. He followed them all through the construction zone. And one of my kids actually saw one of the dogs take the handler to one of the retention ponds. And not only did he go to the retention pond, he ran to it and jumped in it. And the handler had to go and get him and take him out of the water and then dry him off. And
okay, so this was more of Christopher Proudfoot's confusion, intentionally interjecting bad information to create confusion. And it was so effective that there were even some law enforcement officers that were also confused. But now we've got it parsed out. We know what the truth is per law enforcement. Okay, the sheriff. So the truth is this: there was absolutely no scent picked up at the house that tracked down the road either direction. It was as if Sebastian never lived at that house. It was very strange. So there's no scent at all that the dog picked up, right? I mean, for me, I thought, well, I suppose the most likely scenario is that Sebastian never went outside to play, that if he left the house, he was in his mom's car, that he would go into the garage, get in the car, and that is why there was not a scent that was picked up on the porch or down in the front yard, right? Because here's a certainty. If this kid stepped off that porch, no shoes on, he would have left his DNA on the concrete. He would have. It's not a matter of, well, maybe he might have. No shoes on, walking on concrete, he would have left skin cells on the concrete. So they did not find a trail tracking from the house at all. But when they were searching the wider area of the neighborhood, they ended up back at this construction area that would be a really good place to go look, because if someone's trying to hide a body, that's where you would want to do it, right? It was once they got near the construction site that a scent was picked up, not Sebastian's scent. Right? It wasn't a dog that knew that you could like give him Sebastian's shoe or shirt, give him the scent, and then let him search through all the different smells and find that one smell that belonged to Sebastian. They didn't have that kind of dog. It was a general tracking dog that was just here's something, let me follow it, and then he jumped into the pond. So I don't know why Christopher Proudfoot lied time and time again that, oh yeah, that dog tracked Sebastian to the construction site. That's absolutely false. That in no way was that accurate at all. Yeah, yes, Canine Max is not an article search canine. He was a tracking canine. So the big takeaway, I mean, Bobby's explaining to you what happened. This is within a week or so after, or not a week, maybe a month or so after Sebastian went missing. Her memory in this recording, her video, her experiences in this recording are more likely to be accurate than anything that she would recall today. Today, her memory is at its worst. And next week, it's going to even be more disrupted. So at this point, 10 months later, I don't care what she's saying right now. She could have been frightened and intimidated by Christopher Proudfoot. Hell, I don't even know the man. Didn't see anything, and I'm afraid of him and his anger. He is the kind of man that ends up with 7 CPS investigations for hurting children. That's who he is. He is the man who ends up with 5 wives. It's terrible what people are doing.
My son looked over at the handler and said, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like that before." He looked at me and said, "He's never done that before." And my son said, "Why did he just jump in that?" He said he was following a scent. And then the other
on that, did they go in the water? Did they stake scuba divers or anything in there?
Supposedly, when I told Seth that when I met him at the most recent vigil, he said they drained the pond twice.
I have a question, Julie, Canine Julie. What kind of dog is Max? Is he a Belgian? Slim Shady, they had 14 dogs that came and did these searches. 14. None of them found Sebastian's scent near the home. None of them. So there you go. Belgian Malinois. They're a man. Those are amazing dogs. So cool. The profile is on their website. Yeah, they're cool dogs. He didn't, according to the sheriff's department, he did not pick up a scent. That 14 dogs, none of them picked up Sebastian's scent.
And nothing. But not only did I see that, but when on day 3, I think it was Wednesday.
And this is it right here, right? So K9 Jules says, I think the problem was not isolating that scene. Not immediately. They never isolated the scene. It was like an open house, according to people that were there that day. No restrictions, people coming in and out ad nauseum, far more than they would have on a normal day. And then we know that the Proudfoots were given permission. This is so bad, y'all. It's so bad. Makes me nauseated. The Proudfeet were given permission by the sheriff's department to have their home professionally cleaned. You can't make this up. It's the state needs to come in and investigate that. Sheriff, the district attorney's office, somebody needs to find out what went wrong that day. It's as bad as it gets, in my opinion. Yeah, I've always V Slims. I've always been. I don't believe for a minute about this whole flashlight story. I think she said this about the flashlight because in her mind that would support the notion that he ran away, right? Oh, all he took was his little flashlight. Oh, but he didn't think about that he was going to need shoes? He's going to run away and take the flashlight, but no shoes, huh? Is that right, Katie? I don't think so. I think she overlooked the shoes. I think she mistakenly overlooked the shoes. And it was the first thing that stood out to Seth when he walked in. He's like, well, there's all his shoes. Why would he run away? It's a lot of problems in this case, y'all. A lot.
When National Guard came through and they had their dogs. Oh yeah. Oh
National,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They were all up and down through the neighborhood. That's why when everybody said, the police aren't doing enough, I have some of my own personal thoughts about that, but I will tell you right now, we had we had the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, we had Hendersonville Police, we had state troopers, we had National Guard, we had drones, we had helicopters, we had canines, we had 2 sets of different canines, and the National Guard brought theirs. So we were flooded. Okay, so back to the whole dog.
Let's do the trash, because the trash is what everyone is like curious about. The time the trash picks up, and then in reference to the lights, we're going to talk about the 3 a.m., 3:10 a.m. lights. Let's talk about the trash.
So it's a little bit confusing. I did check the town itself. They say that the trash trucks are not allowed to begin collecting refuse before 6 a.m. But that's the city. That's not outside of the city, a county collection, right? So, so I don't know the name of the trash company. I don't know those things, but if somebody does, that would be a really good thing to do, to call them and ask what's the earliest that your trash trucks can start collecting refuse. Because I know for a fact that for the city, it's 6 a.m. And it was also 6 a.m. for Knoxville and Memphis. So it sounds kind of standard, but maybe out in the rural areas, maybe it's a little different. I don't know. But if you happen to know the company name that's actually picking up, maybe call them and ask if they have a minimum time when the trucks can start running.
Trash. What do you know?
So our trash gets picked up by J.E. McMurtry Disposal, has for many, many, many years. They used to, a few years back, they would pick up around 6:30-ish, but then the bus was coming through and it was making it hard for them to come through with the bus, and all the kids were out and it was just chaotic. So they switched it, and now they go down my street about 5:30, 5-ish, between 5:15-ish, 5:20, something like that, every Monday morning. That's going down my hill, though. That's not when they come in and they're going around it. That's when they're coming back down. So, yeah.
I mean, that's an extra, 20 minutes? How long does it take for the trash truck guy to go through the whole entire neighborhood?
And the other misconception is a lot of people are saying that they have to hand dump the trash bin in there. They don't. It's a new truck. They have an arm, and it does it for them.
Okay.
So that was another thing where they're having to pick.
So that's another point of contention that is in this early video. Somebody was putting out a rumor, I suppose you could call it, that when the trash man picked up the Proudfoot trash that day, that it was much heavier than it normally was. And so a lot of people were talking like, oh, it's a human being sort of guessing or, guesstimating the weight. No. These are modern trucks. They have the automatic arm, the electric arm, and those arms actually weigh the trash. So if this rumor is correct, and it was much heavier than their normal refuse, that could end up becoming an important piece of evidence should this thing ever go to trial. And Chief, I'm sorry to say, well, I'm happy to say it because number one, Mystic is a really good friend of mine. And so I'd appreciate if you're not rude to her. And number two, you're wrong. Proudfoot has not been married 6 times, although 5 times is bad enough. Okay. I'm not trying to, say that it's any better, but he's got 4 ex-wives. His current wife is number 5. And so please be polite to my friend Mystic because she's a nice person.
Pick up these big, no, they're not. They have an arm, they roll it over to the arm, connect it to the arm, and they dump it in. You can hear it. I mean, it's not quiet, it's loud. I mean, you hear the arm doing all that. So by the time they collect the trash coming up the street, though, not going down it. They're collecting it as they come up. So I guess they're probably in the neighborhood just like around 5, just before 5.
And they're out of there before the buses come.
Yes.
Or the bus come, or
Absolutely.
You said buses. Where's trash go?
Oh, it gets dumped in either Nashville or Gallatin. If Nashville is full, they'll temporarily dump it to Gallatin, and then once I guess Nashville gets whatever, then they'll transport to Nashville. The big misconception was that the neighborhood behind us, they get picked up by a different company on Tuesdays. So that's a whole different thing.
Is that construction development you're talking about?
Well, that was the dumpster that everybody was asking about. How is it possible that, whatever, that the dog hit over there as well? The second dog that was out walking hit also by the trash dumpster. And the trash dumpster owner found that out when law enforcement told him that we got a hit by the dumpster. The owner of the dumpster called them back and said, okay, we dumped our trash on this certain day, Tuesday, whatever, on that certain day in Kentucky. So you guys need to go and get a warrant, obviously. And he gave them permission to go search the Kentucky dumpster or landfill. So that's why they went to Kentucky. And then I was told that they also checked Gallatin and Nashville as well.
Is K9 Jules, are you still in here, Jules? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like you are. Are you still here? You don't have to come up on the if you want to come up for a minute, and I'm not going to keep you, all night, but what I'd like is if you could come up and kind of just educate us the different types of dogs, because dogs are trained to fulfill different missions, right? And I think there's a lot of people that don't quite understand that. They think, like Hollywood, you give them an article of clothing and then the dog smells it and then the dog goes and finds only that smell. But there's a lot of different kinds of tracking that dogs will do. Some dogs will search for trauma, right? They'll respond if somebody was very, very frightened. A dog will identify and hit where those pheromones are. So depending on what kind of training the dogs had, they would be useful in different ways if you've got a missing person that you're looking for. My apartment complex picks up at 2 a.m. That's horrible. Horrible, bubbly Beth. I would be so mad if the big trash truck was coming around at 2 a.m. I would not be a happy camper. as I recall, the employees arrive at the depot when they get the truck. Can't recall if they arrived at 4:30 or 4:45, but they have a shift. 3 a.m. is not possible for a trash truck there. Thank you, KJ. Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? Even a 5 a.m. and then I thought, okay, well, maybe the trash trucks are like going to the farthest location of their run, and then they're waiting for that time to roll over to 6 a.m. and then begin the collection, working toward the barn, so to speak, where they store their trucks at night. But I don't know. I'm not the investigator. I'm not a police officer. I think my goal here is to try to unmuddy the waters that SF Investigates, Cluminati, and the rest of the gang, that they've intentionally done in this situation, is to make it messy and bad. I mean, they're obstructing an investigation, in my opinion. Definitely SF Investigates did when he came out and said that Katie said that Green Hoodie was an old man. It is the Proudfoot camp that put out the lies, right? It was the Bounty Hunters group that corrected that lie and put out photographs, or not photographs, but screenshots of the video that showed, no, Green Hoodie is a woman. So why in the world did SF come out and say Katie said it was an old dude? What was the point of that? Well, the point of that was to disrupt and disturb the evidence, the information that's out there. All right. Yeah, bloodhounds are very cool. Very, very cool. All right, so let me continue this.
That night, Katie claims, the night of the 25th, that Sebastian takes the trash out after they arrived home from going out to dinner. Go ahead.
There's no specific footage of that. The neighbor that has the Ring door camera that saw that, she said to me on the phone that the only thing you can see is a silhouette. She said you cannot see a physical person. There is absolutely.
So that's two people in the know. Bobby talked to the lady who actually owns the footage. Seth was shown the footage by the sheriff's department, and they both are saying the same thing. That being able to see that human being bringing the trash out has zero evidentiary value. Nothing. It means nothing. You probably will not ever even see it in a court of law if there's a prosecution, because it only goes back to Katie Proudfoot's word. She's the only one saying, she's the only one that can say Sebastian took out the trash. There's no one else to back her up at all. So it's not going to come out in court as evidence unless she takes the stand. There's no way she's going to subject herself to questioning. Hell, she won't even go on a podcast. She is certainly not going to go up on a witness stand and let a prosecutor she'll never say it. So it doesn't matter if you believe that really was Sebastian taking out the trash. There's a lot of reason to believe that Sebastian never made it home that night.
Absolutely no physical proof of Sebastian being at their house that night after dinner. There's nothing. There's her car coming home. My neighbor did tell me that she saw her car come, but she parks in the garage, so nobody saw him get out of the car.
What time was
Oh, let me finish
that?
this.
I always want to know what time she arrived home. Do you know?
I asked, and she said that it was so dark that she couldn't really see. She saw about 6 or so, I think, is what she.
Okay, so we don't even really know what time she got home. Hey, Jules, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to talk with you.
You too. This is cool. It's 2 Jules on panel. It's awesome.
Oh, Jules is becoming a very popular name. So I even saw where, so like people that join my channel, my memberships are all gems, right? So it's like sapphire, diamond, tanzanite, And I laughed the other day because YouTube put out like a new like monetization feature, and they're all jewels. So you know how they do super chats? Now they've got jewels that are different levels of money that people can give you. So I was like, wow, this whole gemstone jewels thing is really caught on.
Yeah, my birthstone's a sapphire actually, so that's really cool.
Yeah,
September
very
birthday.
cool. Very, very cool. Okay, so maybe it would help if people knew that different dogs are trained for a different mission.
Right.
So do you mind kind of educating us real quick on what the different types of dogs are and what their capabilities and limitations might be?
Yeah, so it depends on if a dog is a single purpose canine, which means they're trained for one purpose. Like, for example, a lot of CWD, which is contract working dogs that work at embassies overseas.
Yes.
They're single purpose dogs. They're usually for like explosives or narcotics. You don't want a patrol certified canine working in embassy because the risk of a patrol certified canine accidentally biting like an allied nation person is higher. So that's why they're single purpose. Those dogs aren't really trained to bite for that purpose. Right. And then you have dual purpose canines. And obviously they're combined with something else. So Max, for example, who was the very first canine on site, I've spoken to the handler and I spoke to the sheriff before he passed away, unfortunately, about this canine in particular. So Max is a dual purpose canine, narcotics, and non-aggressive tracking, which means a non-aggressive tracking canine means he's trained to go find someone. And at the end of the track, is for like a missing or endangered person. Now, I put emphasis on that because if you have a canine that's like, say, like Gator, for example, he's narcotics and patrol. He's looking for a bad guy at the end of the track, like a convict or something like that.
Yeah.
But he usually does what we call a bark and hold. So if he runs up and finds someone, he's literally going to bark and like hold his position, bark and hold, and let us know that's where the guy is.
Yes.
So that's how that works with them. So Max is narcotics and non-aggressive tracking. So again, missing or endangered person. So Max did not get a scent article that morning when he arrived. The very first thing that Max did was they brought him to the property. And when you're using a tracking canine, you take them to the last known location of the person who went missing. So allegedly, that was, the house, which is why Max, he didn't go down the driveway to where the trash can was. That was a rumor that was started. He ran around the house, went through that back way, and that's when he went across the concrete, across the dirt, across the grass, and went to the pond. So he was tracking the freshest, cleanest scent that he could pick up on. That's why it's important to shut the scene down when everyone gets there, because anyone knows when someone goes missing, a canine is going to come in because they want to try to find the person.
Yes.
So that's why it makes me so, when Seth mentioned that like people were walking all over the yard and stuff like that, granted, yeah, Max had already done his thing by that point in time, but what if another tracking canine wanted to come, like Rex, for example, who's at the department also in Sumner County? What if he came like within the next like 15 minutes? He could have gone a different, depending on what he did. And then article scent canines are referred to as trailing, or we call them man trackers. So those are the dogs that are scent specific. That's why when Ken Widener said none of them, to his understanding, led to Sebastian, he wasn't lying, because Max is not scent specific. He got that first hit, but Sebastian wasn't sitting at the end of the track, and Max is not certified to find a direct individual person So he wasn't lying about when he said that. It's just he can't confirm, you know what I mean? So, and somebody asked, can a dog track somebody through water? A well-trained canine can.
Yes.
Like a puppy who's like new at tracking might not be able to do that so well, but like Gator, who's been doing this for years, he'll track somebody through water. The reason why a scent trail could end so abruptly is if somebody gets in a car, because a canine can't track somebody once they're in a car, just because
Right.
it's literally an isolated scent. There's a joke online you can find because people were researching this. It says, can a bloodhound track somebody once they leave in a car? And the joke says, yes, if they're in the same car as the person.
Right.
Because, like, so it's just, there's so many different sciences behind canine detection work. And I could talk this all day. I don't want to bore everybody. But I believe Max. I believe the handler. We say trust your dog. I've heard like 6 different versions of how many dogs were there in the first week. Which drives me nuts.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. So I really, really, really think that I believe in Max. He is a dual purpose. He is a German Shepherd Belgian Malinois mix. I think Chris said he was pure Belgian Malinois. He's not. He's a mix. He certifies through USPCA like I did. So he's certified through the same organization. Now, one thing I will say is in the beginning, I know a bunch of people were calling, trying to talk to Max's handler. And I was like saying, like, please, people don't call the handler. Like he wants to be like left alone doing his thing.
Right.
So like, I feel really bad for him because he trusts his dog. Him and Max, they certified as a team in the summer. But I mean, some people say, well, they weren't working together very long. They were together with a different department before they transferred over to Sumner County. So they were partners somewhere else first. But when you transfer to partners, you have to recertify as a team. So Max, I think, is 5 years old. But he was, when a dog's pulling like Max was, and you can hear the handler in the audio, he was out of breath. He was trying to keep up with Max. And this is what I'll say about this. It takes a well-trained canine to go over multiple surfaces. Like Max did, he went over grass, he went into water, he went through dirt, he went through over a lot of surfaces and still held whatever that track was. And we don't know who it was. It could have been, allegedly, if somebody walked out with Sebastian and he got in a car and walked back the same path, the same exact path, some people might think, oh, well, that means like, again, all alleged in my opinion. If somebody were to walk somebody out to a car and someone gets in the car and the person thinks, if I walk back the exact same path, then it's going to look like a one-way ticket out, basically. When in reality, you just made it better for the canine to pick up a scent because you walked over the same track twice.
Yes.
So it's not the same. There's so many TV shows about like, oh, what if shoes are bleached or what if something else happens? Oh, again, a dog like Max who's been through training enough, like Gator, for example. I talk about this because it's the one rehab Gator and I searched together. When we search a rehab for narcotics, because people sneak stuff in, people will have like leave their food out because it's very quick. Like, hey, everyone get out of the room. We're going to search with the canine. Gator at this point in time, if he goes in the room, he doesn't care about the peanut butter sandwiches when he's in work mode. Now, if he's not in work mode, I'm sure he'd be like, what's that? But in work mode, he's not thinking about that. He's thinking about his job. And I'll say this, and I've said this in other chats, and I'm sorry to take up your time, but with Bobby, I think she was just confused about which dog her kids were following. Because again, Max was there very early when he got his track going. I can't speak to search and rescue. There's another person going around talking about search and rescue tactics. I can't speak to search and rescue. I'm not a search and rescue person. I do police canine tracking. We track a little bit differently. We usually, with our canines, if there is another person with us, it's a drone operator and they're walking behind us. And that's like when we're looking for a convict or looking for somebody because we don't want eyes in the sky, but they're like 15 to 20 feet behind us. And if anything, maybe there's a second officer, like if it has to be an arrest or if they need someone to run up and like get somebody. But the dog's on a long line. So again, we search different than search and rescue does, but Max is not a search and rescue canine. He's a police canine. So they do things a bit differently. And just for the record,
Max is the only one that found something.
Yes.
Okay. So of all these 14 dogs, just the one dog found this.
Yeah. Canine Rex tracked sort of in the same direction that Max did, but that's the dog who veered off and went towards the dumpster. And then there was like a blue tick hound that tracked the same direction, but then lost the track. But that canine was younger and was newly certified, but it wasn't. Max has been doing this for a long time. But I will say, canine handlers, we're friendly people. I know somebody said canine handlers aren't friendly. We're friendly
SF
people.
Investigate said that. He is a really a mess.
Yeah, but we're friendly people, I promise. It's just and again, I appreciate all the work he's done for the search and rescue community, but we work very differently in the police military canine world versus search and rescue. So there's a lot of mixed opinions about him, and the only thing I will say is I appreciate the work he does for the search and rescue community, and wish him the best of luck in all his endeavors.
Yeah. So the man trailing the article trained dogs. How, if they had one of those types of animals, how might it have looked different, do you think?
You said how, you cut out for a second there. You said the man trailing, about how long do you think he'd pick up on the trail after he scented something?
Well, my question is this. So Max was following something, but you don't know what it was, right?
Correct.
If you had a article trained dog, how could that have looked different?
It depends on the article of clothing the dog is given, for starters. So whenever we're doing article searches, I like having a shoe insole, like the inside of a shoe, because because I talk about the Lacey Peterson case a lot. Scott Peterson gave the handler a pair of her sunglasses, which he had touched, and then the handler touched them, and then the dog tracked towards that lake area, and it stopped there because obviously we know she was found after she was washed up on shore, unfortunately. But the problem with like something like sunglasses or a shirt, something that'll be touched by more people more often, you could contaminate the article. Now, a shoe insole, what are the chances that Katie or Chris or whoever is taking his shoe insoles out and washing those like all the time? Like, therefore, they cross-contaminating. It depends on how far away he is, but I've seen a lot of successful stuff done with article search canines, but I've also seen with the cross-contamination. That's why I don't really like scent articles. I prefer, the tracking dogs like Max's and like what Gator does, just because as long as the scene's shut down properly, it's much more successful. However, that's why I said you want to get a shoe insole or something for the dog to sniff and track. I think, again, we don't know anything about what time he really left or anything that would happen. But if he was in the area and the dog was given a scent article, and it's a well-trained canine that knows how to do the scent article work, he could have found him much faster because it is more of a direct scent. But again, dogs like Max, they constantly have their nose to the ground. That's why you see some dogs, their head is to the ground. They're just going. These article searching dogs, you'll see them occasionally sniff and then lift their head up, and they're kind of like doing this thing with their mouth where it looks like they're chopping the air. They're not. They're using their nose, their mouth, their everything to really fully inhale. We call it an air scent. So it really all depends on the training and everything. I saw somebody asked, how old do canines have to be to retire? There's no age limit to when a canine can work. There was just a New Jersey State Police dog. It can be looked up. It was on Instagram. He was 12 years old when he retired.
Oh, wow.
As long as the canine and the handler can certify together as a team and you can be successful, there's no age limit. It's just with German Shepherds, most of them do retire at around age 8 years old, 9 years old because of their hips. That's the biggest problem with German Shepherds. Malinois, they don't have as big of hip dysplasia issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, if they had been able to find a dog that could work with the article, then you, whatever it was that Max picked up on, at least you would know, no, that wasn't Sebastian at all. That could have been a cat. It could have been anything, because if he was working with one of Sebastian's articles and it wasn't Sebastian's scent, then you wouldn't have gotten that kind of confusing information, right?
Exactly. And they're looking for the human scent. So I see what you mean by the cat thing. But again, that's why I said, someone asked me, could it have been Chris? Could have been Katie? Could have been whoever? And it's like, could have been.
Yeah.
But again, they're looking for that disturbance. They're looking for literally the human foot making contact with the earth and creating that disturbance. So that's what they're looking for. But yeah, you're right. If a canine was given a scent article and it was a scent article trained canine, then we would have like more confirmation. Yes, this was Sebastian versus Max, who we don't. I wish Max could talk, like the dog and Up, give him that collar.
Sure.
But then we would know for sure what it was. But again, the whole Lacey Peterson story I talk about with the sunglasses, that's why I don't like scent articles as much, is because of the contamination. Unless you're doing something like the insole of a shoe, or I think Nancy Grace, honestly, remember when she asked Chris and Katie, did they take carpet from the room? I think she was asking because if Sebastian was barefoot in his room and he had carpet in his room, again, that's a spot where he's direct skin on, same thing as like a shoe insole. So I think that's why she was asking that question, just to figure out, because she even said in her one interview, the best witness she ever had on the stand was a dog, which I thought was kind of, I would love to see how that case panned out. If there's a place to read that or watch that, I would love to see how the dog was her best witness and what the dog exactly did in court. That'd be pretty interesting to see.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. What about in Summer Wells' case? Did they have dogs there? Do you know?
I know they had dogs, but I'm honestly not familiar with what they did.
Yeah, actually, it just came to my mind. They did, and the problem is that the Welleses had like a ton of dogs and puppies, living up there, and they asked them to secure them and get them out so they could bring the search dogs in. And when the search dogs showed up, so did all the Wells dogs. And I remember now, so it completely disrupted the ability to use scent. So I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
They intentionally brought their dogs out when the canines were there?
Yes.
Wait a second. Aren't these dogs like not spayed or neutered or something? Aren't they still like intact too?
Yeah, because there were little puppies that were actually under the building at the time.
Yeah, that's one thing that we say, like when we're training our canines, like if there ever is a female canine that's not spayed, which by the point in time they're working canines, most of them are, we make them work the dogs last after everyone else does their training, because we don't want the female running around in the field out there because she's in heat. It causes chaos for the dogs. So it's interesting how dogs work, but I didn't know about. I knew there were dogs there. I don't know where the dogs hid in Summer's case or anything, but that's really appalling that they just brought their dogs out intention to throw off the canines. Like, it's just like, what the heck? Wow, and someone said they had 15 dogs at one time. Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
Yeah, when she went missing, there were 15 dogs and puppies, right? Different ages, but yeah, it was bad.
God.
There was so much, again, very similar to what's going on with the Proudfoot situation. So much of intentional disruption and misinformation put out, to interfere, I think, with trying to get to the truth of what happened. So
yeah, I didn't read up. Unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with, like, I came in this kind of, obviously Sebastian was the first time I really started. I didn't hear about Summer until Sebastian's case. But I'll have to look more into what the canines did with that. I did see that Liza Rowe asked if Max went that way. Then could we say that someone from the house went in that direction? Yes, because he was following the freshest, cleanest scent from that area. So again, I think there was a fail with the scene not being immediately shut down, because once someone's missing, shut down the canine and gets the. And I wasn't there the first day, but it seems like there was a lot of fails by that not being followed, because they were treating him like a runaway initially. So, I mean, I feel like regardless of whether runaway or no matter what, if someone's missing from their house, especially a child, it should be immediately taken and treated like this is a crime scene, lock it down, deploy the canine. But it seems like that wasn't the case. It's really sad.
Yeah, I've actually been advocating after this thing is played out with Sebastian like it has. I think we need to have a law that if you have a child, a minor kid who is reported as a runaway, but they are special needs, that the last known location should be treated as a potential crime scene, and the evidence, collected and secured just in case. Because we do know that kids that are on the spectrum, they are most likely to be the victim of interpersonal or family violence than any other child.
Mm-hmm.
So, there were so many real, like, true red flags in the first 12 hours after he went missing. And it seems to me they did everything exactly wrong. And I don't want to be just like blanket, a blanket criticism of law enforcement, but what they know to shut the scene down so the dogs can work. They understand that concept. And they also understand luminol and what it's used for. I mean, there's some real strange things that happen that they should have had their radar up. And I think it's justified to ask the question, what happened to your radar?
Yeah, when I was talking to the Agent Simmons initially, when I was trying to get cleared for he wanted to validate my credentials and stuff, which he did. One of the things I asked him was, I said, I don't want to mess up a scene or anything like that. If the prep would say it's okay for me to go in there, I'm like, do you want me to take pictures before or after? It's like, so like I know how it was set up, and if Gator was walking through and accidentally bumps into something, I can put it back to how it was. And he said to me, something along the lines of, we got everything we needed and took a lot of photos. So I'm not sure what they did as far as luminol goes. I should have asked. I didn't, but I did ask about photos and stuff being taken just to be sure. So I know at least that was done, but I'm sure they did. I never thought to ask about the luminol, but I mean, I don't know what Tennessee protocols and procedures are with that. I would hope they did something with that, but I mean, who honestly knows?
Yeah. Yeah. And then after we saw the Texas Roadhouse footage, you would hope that they would have tried to maybe do fingerprints on her car. But apparently, according to Christopher Proudfoot, he asked about that. And the answer was, oh, this isn't CSI. This isn't how we do it in the real world.
Yeah, was that in the Nancy Grace interview, or is that in a different interview? I don't remember.
It was it was a podcast. I think it was Smiley's.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was weird in the beginning. I never saw any of those first couple interviews. I had to go back and watch them afterwards, and I was like, I missed a lot of stuff apparently. The first time I really heard Chris was on the Web Sleuths panel.
Oh, that was a bad.
I talked to him a couple of days after that was when I talked to him. And I remember when he wanted to talk to me, because Seth was like, hey, Chris wants to talk to you about searching. And I was like, okay. So when I first spoke to him on the phone, it literally started out, I'm like, hi. He's like, hello. And I'm like, so how's it go? It was just so awkward at first because I didn't know him. And I was like, the last time I heard him talk was on the Web Sleuths interview, and he was kind of angry. So I was like, I don't know if this is going to go. But I mean, it was like we talked about the dogs and whatnot. He actually talked about some deployment stories, and so did I. And it was just like, it wound up, he eased up in the conversation as it went on. But at first I was like, I don't know if this is going to go. But yeah, he ultimately decided no. But what was weird was in the email response he sent about me searching was, yeah, her credentials are legit, but at this time we're saying no to our house and the houses of any other family members. And I was like, I didn't ask about.
Wow.
But I didn't ask about any other family members. So I was like, well, that's weird. And I was like, I don't know if he just assumed I wanted to go there, but I didn't. I was like, okay, well then, have a nice day type of deal. So it is what it is.
Yeah. So that is highly suspect that he brought in family members' houses.
Yeah, that was a little. I was a little caught off guard by that. I was just like, I wasn't asking. I mean, maybe he just assumed I was thinking that, but I wasn't by any means. I would have literally asked directly about that if I wanted to. And I still have that email, but it was very random and very like, huh? I'm like, that wasn't even on my radar. Like, honestly, I only knew really Seth and then Chris, obviously, and Todd from the Cajun Navy. Those were the only people I had really talked to about doing any type of searching at all before I talked to Agent Simmons. And oh my God, the former sheriff, what was his name? Sonny.
West
yeah.
or West.
Yeah, his nickname was Sonny. I can't remember what his first name was, but they were the ones that, went over my credentials and everything. So he was weird. And then Steph, the fake handler, came in out of California. I don't know where she came from to this day. I don't know where she went.
Wasn't that bizarre?
Yeah, I don't know where she came from. All I remember is we were when I was on Jay's panel, and she came up and Jay even asked her, she's like, what are your dogs' names? And I don't think she could remember her dogs' names the second time going back and forth. It was really weird.
Didn't she come back later and say she named them after alcohol?
Yeah, it was like vodka, tequila, sambuca, whatever their names were. I was like, okay.
That's
but
so
I mean,
bizarre.
It was really weird. And I will say this in Jay's defense, because I know people were giving her a hard time about that. I'm sure she wasn't accustomed to people lying to her about their certification, so I'll defend her on that, because I didn't know. I had no idea, because I'm not used to people, lying about like their certifications. And at one point in time when Jay and I were talking, where you see my face kind of start to change, because I think I asked her, oh, where'd you certify through? And then she kind of went a roundabout way of asking that question. And I think we both realized it at the exact same time. I'm like, something's weird about this. Because all the photos I sent in were of me and my dogs. She sent in like these weird calendar looking photos. And that was weird.
Didn't Jay find it was it one of the dog like Petco websites?
Yeah, it was like chewy.com or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Wow, she wasn't even very slick, was she?
No, and it was weird because like she couldn't get her audio to work, and then it was like on her phone and on her computer. And I know people gave Jay a hard time about that, but I will say like she had no way of really knowing, because like I mean she definitely didn't know beforehand, and she was like a last minute thing. That Steph girl, she popped up at the very last minute, and it was very weird. But yeah, she got her dogs from chewy.com, and their names like vodka, tequila, sambuca, and like rum chata, whatever their names were. I was like, okay.
It's like, what? Name your tracking dogs after generals or colonels, but not alcohol. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Gator came with his name because, again, Gator was with the Department of Corrections in Arizona. And then his handler, and there's rumors going around with this, if it's okay to squash it real quick. So Gator's former handler has Crohn's disease and blood cancer. He was forced to retire because of his condition, and because Gator was 5 or 6 at the time, they were like, oh, he can just retire with you because, let him just go with you because you were partnered together. Well, Gator's handler got to the point where he couldn't really care for Gator anymore, and Gator still wanted to work, which is how I got in touch with him through another canine handling organization, and I adopted him from the state of Arizona for $1. And then we got partnered up and we certified after being together for 3 months. So, I mean, he's a great dog. But yeah, Gator, he's the goofiest, happiest dog whenever he's like getting ready to go to work. He spins in circles. He jumps up and down. I'm just like, he still wants to, the dog's going to work until the day it's his last day.
He loves it. Yeah, he's real smart. He likes the way it feels when he's working.
Yeah. But yeah, that whole Steph thing was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. I don't know where she went, where she came from, she was following me from panel to panel. It was, and I think a lot of people.
I was about to say that. It seemed like she was really focused on you and trying to like befriend you.
Yeah, I don't know where she came from or where she went. It was just, I have no idea. All I know is the one day I was on T-Reps and then she was there. I was on Dolly's, then she called in, and I was like, what is happening? But yeah, it was so weird, but I don't know.
And she claimed to have all these bloodhounds. Remember?
She did, yeah. And she said,
and you're like, how many bloodhounds do you have? Are you sure you know what you're talking about?
Well, she kept saying stuff like, "Oh, well," I think she's like, "Oh, no offense, Jules, but bloodhounds are much better trackers than Belgian Mountain." Like,
Ugh,
um,
wow.
huh? It really all depends on, again, genetics and your training. I mean,
And
bloodhounds
the
are,
purpose too. Like what kind of tracking are you doing? Because a lot of the bloodhounds can't tolerate, like if they're looking for a cadaver.
yeah, a lot of bloodhounds. I mean, they're the stereotypical search and rescue looking dog because they've been
Yes.
that way since like long, long, long time, like World War II, maybe even predating it. Um, but Malinois have been around for a long time. They just weren't officially a recognized breed by the AKC, I think, until the early 2000s. But they were used. It's just that they were considered German Shepherd mixes. So it's they're great
Yeah, but
dogs.
they're
Yeah,
kind of, they're like the beast mode dog, right? Like they do things that physically that are just amazing.
yeah, they're nuts. Bellatrix the puppy. I think I showed her at the end of my one live the one time. She's a little puppy Malinois. She's only a year old. Oh my god, she's full of like sugar and spice and everything, like on firecrackers. She just does not want to stop ever.
Yeah.
But she's tiny. She's only like 40 pounds right now. Like she's like a little pocket rocket dog basically. I'm just like, you're so little.
Yeah, they are amazing, amazing dogs. To see what they can do is just crazy to me. But my heart near and dear to a bloodhound. If of course I've got German Australian shepherds.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got a male Australian shepherd. He's a little bit over 100 pounds, which is, my vet was in shock watching him grow. He was like, "What are you feeding this dog?" I was like, "I don't know." He came off of a working ranch up around Dallas, and they do like the competitive, that like they're taking their dogs and work, like one of their trained working dogs is selling for like $17,000.
mm-hmm.
And so they had a bunch of puppies. They had a bunch of training that was going on when I went up there to get this one. And I was like, "Well, what's wrong with my dog?" I paid $3,000 for him. And
Yeah.
I said, why? Like, why is his brother or sister going to be sold for 15,000, but then mine is 3? And they said, "He's too timid." So I've got this 100-pound baby who he's just the sweetest thing. He's just like a big teddy bear. But anyway, if I ever, they're aging. Two of my Australian shepherds are much older, and then I have a full-blooded Pomeranian who does the most amazing tricks you've ever seen.
Little
And then,
pom-poms.
yes, she is. I wasn't even like going to get a dog, but when I saw this little black puff of fur, like hopping like a rabbit across the floor, it was the cutest thing. I couldn't tolerate it. I had to get it. Like I just couldn't physically walk away from it. So she's very old. My big Australian shepherd, he's getting pretty old. And I told my husband, if something should happen and those two go, then I'd really like to get a bloodhound, but I don't know if I will. But that is a breed that I've always watched and wondered at and thought I would love to have one. So
yeah, they're great dogs. I think Dog the Bounty Hunter said a while ago he used to have. I think he had a couple. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. He's all about them tracking and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if he said a bloodhound. But before I go, I did see that somebody said something. I think it was Melanie said something about Sebastian's Law would be really have everyone leave the house. That'd be really cool if Seth were to like work with the state of Tennessee and get the to be a law for future cases. It's kind of like Skylar's Law in West Virginia. You probably remember from Skylar Niece.
yes.
Yeah, I'm friends with her dad and mom, and they fought to have Skylar's Law for that Amber Alert to be issued out, regardless of whether suspected runaway or whatnot, for under that age of 18. So it's just there's a lot of parallels in Skylar's case that makes me think about Sebastian's case. So it's Skylar was another sad one.
Oh, it's devastating.
I just really hope Sebastian is found and he's brought back home and we get answers soon. It's just, there's a lot that we really don't know if you think about it. The only thing we really know is that Katie was the last one in the house with him, and that's really, and he disappeared at some point in time before the 26th. That's all we really know if you think about it. There's just so much.
The truth is, Jules, we don't really know that Sebastian was with Katie in that house that night. The last thing we know is that they left Texas Roadhouse.
That's actually a good point. Was she ever seen on? Was he wasn't seen on camera again? Was he after Texas Roadhouse? I don't know. If
she claims that when they got home, that he took the trash bin down to the road, right? But this woman that's on camera, Bobby, and then Seth, was shown the video by law enforcement. Both Bobby and Seth said, all you can see is the outline of a person. In no way can you make out, even if it's male or female, that there's no way of knowing who it is that took the trash down to the road. So even that would not be something that would end up in like a court of law unless Katie took the stand. Right. Because they're not going to let just someone say, well, Katie said it was XYZ. So their last known, last proof of life really was eating at Texas Roadhouse when they had that very odd encounter with the woman in the green hoodie. That was odd enough that people standing around stopped what they were doing and turned to watch. So, it's we don't really know that he did go missing from his house.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it took that long for law enforcement to release a statement on that whole thing. It was
ridiculous.
Yeah, it was really, I remember when that video came out, and then it was almost immediate. Law enforcement responded like, hey, we did this. And it's just like, okay, it's sad that it took, I mean, regardless of how people feel about that video coming out, at least law enforcement came out and said something in general, because for a while it was like, aren't you guys gonna, and I know they hold their cards close to the vest, but it just, I don't know, it was nice to finally hear like anything from them on an official letterhead and whatnot. So it was good to at least hear that. So
don't you wonder, I mean, you work with law enforcement, don't you wonder their reaction at these lies that SF Investigate is putting out publicly? How do you think they're responding to his nonsense?
I guess it depends on which things that you're referring to. He said a lot of stuff. Which is why I always referred to. I appreciate the work he does for the search and rescue community, but I've in the past I've offered. I'm like, if you want my canines to help you, I'll come and help you. I've offered it to him a couple times. So it's just, I wish it wasn't like this. And again,
well, one thing he said that I found particularly curious, and maybe I shouldn't assume that he's the one that lied, because it's entirely possible that Katie Proudfoot lied to him and then he just repeated what he thought was true, right? But he said that the green hoodie person was a man. In fact, he said that Katie said it was an old man.
Oh boy, I don't even remember hearing that. Honestly, I don't. That's interesting though.
And so a day or two later, then at night, actually got screenshots from the Texas Roadhouse video to show, no, it's a woman.
Oh, okay. I remember the still photos. I just didn't remember him saying that, but okay, now it makes sense why they released his pictures, because like again, there's been a lot going on with like the election and the results, and now everything that happened yesterday. It's just been a whirlwind of stuff going on, but that makes sense now why they released those still photos.
So they released the screenshots, and then if you listen to SF Investigates just a day or two later up on panel, he's still saying that it's an old man. So it's so hard to understand why are they repeating this that is not real? Like, it's not true. Why would Katie say that it was an old man when it's so clearly a woman? And my curiosity is, what does law enforcement do when they see something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because if you look at the memorandum, sorry, military terms, if you look at the letterhead that law enforcement put out, they say the person in the green hoodie, like they don't specify a gender in that letter. At least
That's right.
I don't remember them
Very
specifying
gender
a gender.
neutral.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if that was done on purpose to be like so that nobody like just jumps like, oh, it's this or it's that, or that. I just thought about that. If I recall right, they don't say anything about a gender in that letter.
I think they use like they, them pronouns. So you don't ever get a handle. And so when I read that, I kind of felt a little uneasy because I thought, okay, so is this cover up crap? Like why not just speak with truth? We talked to her by phone, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I guess because maybe it would shine more confusion about Katie. Maybe I don't know. I find it so interesting that they did it.
Yeah, this has been a very interesting case all in all with everything. Mom and Nup's comment made me laugh because I keep seeing people say that. I'm just like, oh my goodness. She says, I thought it looked like SF.
It was. I kind of thought it did too, Mom and Nup.
My vision's not that good, honestly. I have an eye appointment tomorrow, so I guess I'll figure out what's going on with my eyeballs. But yeah, it's been just interesting and weird and all kinds of stuff going on. And I will always say I appreciate the work he does for STAR, but outside of that, I just yeah. So you made me think about that now, about that whole memorandum from law enforcement. Now, the more I think about it, the more I realize they didn't use he or she in that letter. They did say they, them. So that's an interesting point that they put out there, knowing that people were saying, oh, it's a man or oh, it's a woman type of deal. So they didn't want to confirm. I really hope and believe that law enforcement knows more than we do. I'm pretty sure they do. I think they just need to gain. They need to make sure they get everything right before they move forward with anything at all, because you don't want to approach a DA with like half truth. You want to get everything together. So that's what I'm going to keep hoping and believing with that. I just really hope it's the case. I really hope they're just gaining evidence right now. And we'll know something soon. So again.
Well, yeah, so they investigated Barry Morphew for 2 years, a little over 2 years. Charlie Adelson was 8 years. So, once they arrest you, they got to be ready to go to trial because the clock is ticking. So that is kind of what I'm telling myself, is just be patient. Just be patient. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, because didn't they arrest him and then he went back and sued the state because of his incarceration? Or am I thinking of the wrong thing?
Well, that is an interesting case to dig into, Jules, because the reason that he was released is that the district attorney was a disaster. It was the biggest, craziest thing you've ever seen. She actually has been disbarred.
Oh God.
Because of how badly they mismanaged the prosecution of Barry. So they did, in fact, once he was released, he was released without prejudice, meaning in the future they could come back and recharge. And then I think maybe it was like 8 months later. I don't remember exactly how long, but I think it was around 8 months. They ended up locating Suzanne's body.
Yeah, I do remember hearing they found her finally. So that was sad.
And so at this point now, she ended up with a lot of charges, a lot of problems from the state, ended up getting disbarred, lost her job, the whole, 9 yards. I mean, it was really rough. They've gone after a couple more of the people out of her office. And then, the word is kind of through the grapevine, because I'm friends with some of these people that are involved in this. They think that they wanted to get the internal problem with the office of the district attorney. They wanted to get that in order first before recharging him. And so they're going to recharge him. They're thinking February, March, because now they have her body, and her body was filled with something called BAM. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a bear tranquilizer.
No.
It's controlled substance. You can only get it. Yeah, you can only get it through veterinarians. And in the original arrest affidavit, before they located Suzanne, when he was originally arrested and held in jail without bond, he is actually talking to the FBI agent about having BAM and using it on deer and chipmunks, and it's a crazy story. It's a crazy story.
Yeah, this is the guy that said he was running around his yard chasing chipmunks, right, or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, I don't know if this guy knows how fast chipmunks run. I see them for all of like half a second, so I don't know how this dude's chasing chipmunks around his backyard.
Okay,
Sorry.
So he wasn't chasing them. It's something they call it plinking, I think. And basically, these hunters, they'll take their gun and they're trying to shoot the chipmunk, because the chipmunks run so fast that it's very difficult to hit them. So it's kind of like target practice, kind of.
Yeah.
And Gruesing, FBI agent, said, well, so you kill chipmunks? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. Everybody does it.
I would love to know how he catches them, because I can barely see them when they're running by. I mean, Ara will see them before, but like she like, I don't know. They're
smells so tiny, right? They're so tiny and they're so fast. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, he claimed with a great deal of pride that he had been able to shoot and kill 83 chipmunks.
What?
But the men in Colorado, or the hunters in Colorado, they're just like, no, he has not killed 83 chipmunks.
Oh my God. Like, why? Like,
yeah, it's a crazy story. I'll tell you another story he told that is just not real. It's just not true. He claimed that he used the BAM. He shot, now this is a bear tranquilizer, right? That he shot the deer. And then when the deer is knocked out, he went over and sawed the deer's antlers off, and then administered the antidote. So then the deer got up and ran away with, his antlers sawed off. And everybody's just like, but why? Nobody would do that. Why would you do that?
Oh my God. Is this guy in prison right now? Because
no, right now he is living. Look, you should see this house that they had in Colorado. It just the most beautiful heavenly place you can imagine in your mind. I mean, it is absolute perfection. And he's gone from that, like $3.5 million property out in the middle of the woods on the side of a mountain. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. He went from that to living literally in a little like travel trailer in like this seedy kind of drug infested campground in the Arizona desert.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about a fall from grace. He has certainly, bottomed out. So, so they think they'll be arrested. They think he's going to be arrested. She died of BAM. And they've got plenty of evidence there that was collected in the home and preserved. So, that it's just a matter of time, and I think he probably knows it too. That's probably why he's living in that terrible, terrible situation, that he's in.
Yeah, but again, I mean, they're going to find him and bring him in. It's just, isn't this the same guy that said, a mountain lion might have dragged her off or something like that?
Yeah, maybe maybe the cat got her. He said to the whole world, like with such hubris, like such authority, he says, oh, well, when the mountain lions get make a kill, they drag it uphill. And everybody's going, that is so dumb. Of course they don't. They are not going to drag it uphill. That would be the hardest thing for them to do. They bury it really like an alligator.
Yeah,
So
I don't like mountain lions. I don't mess with those things. Like have you ever seen videos of them? Like just, nope,
they
nope, nope, nope.
and listen to this. So I'm I live part of the time in Colorado and part of the time in Houston. And they are having such strange animal behavior right now in Colorado. And so in a little town, it's called Basalt. In Basalt, they ended up seeing 4 mountain lion that were traveling together, and that they moved in on a dog as if they were like pack hunting on
Wow.
this dog. And all of the animal experts were like, no, you're wrong. That didn't happen. They don't do that. And yet there's video, and they're doing it. So it's very curious. And one of the things I wonder about, you can appreciate this. They are in the process of releasing gray wolves back into Colorado, when they spent years and years trying to eradicate them and get them out.
Yeah.
They're now trying to reintegrate them back into the ecosystem in Colorado. And so they said, well, we're going to release them out in the back country and they'll stay back there. No, of course they haven't stayed back there. They're going to go where the food is, right?
They're going to go where they're going to go. I mean, it's like the grizzly bears they're trying to reintroduce to like Washington State and other places right now. It's just like the grizzly bear, you can't contain it. It's if the grizzly bear wants to go somewhere, I'm going to tell you, the bear's going to go somewhere. Like it's a bear.
No, they're apex predators. They're the king of the jungle, and they'll do what they want to do. They don't have those constraints, And when you're reintroducing them back in, there's not even the territorial limitations that nature would have in place.
So they don't know.
Yeah, so there's some question if maybe these mountain lions, did they do this? Maybe it was a reaction to the gray wolf that is now back in the area. They had some one of them ended up down towards Salida, interestingly enough. They had another one that was coming in from Craig, Colorado, going down south, and looked to be, kind of zeroing in on that I-70 corridor, which is so dangerous because there's so many people there. And all the people that said, no, this is such a great idea, they won't go around people. And everybody's like, the gray wolf is different animal. It's a massive, huge predator. It's going to go where the people are.
Yeah, and people don't realize how big wolves actually are. They think they're these little, like, German Shepherd sized things. No. If you look at how big a wolf actually is, like, there's a place in Arizona right outside of Sedona. It's called Out of Africa. They have like these big exhibits and stuff like that. And I saw this one wolf there. I swear, I was looking at its cage. There was nothing in there. I turned, I looked at the grizzly bear across the way from it. And I was looking at this bear for like a minute and a half. I turned back and the wolf was just right there at the fence. It was like, its head was huge. I'm like,
they're enormous.
Yeah. And that's why with this whole bear, when I heard that with Barry Moore, with the whole, like, oh, she may have gotten carried off by a mountain lion. I'm just like, I mean, mountain lion attacks on people. I don't know, like, we don't have any in Pennsylvania. Rare. Yeah, we don't have any in Pennsylvania, but there's rumors that's like, but that might not be the case anymore. The Game Commission's kind of weird about it. They say there's large house cats out there. I'm like, I don't know what. It's very clearly not a large house cat. And like Dane just said, polar bears stand 10 feet tall. Yeah, nope. Barrow, Alaska, and like all those places. No. I won't be going there because I don't mess with no polar bears or any bears in general. They're
they're
well,
huge. I think if you run across a polar bear, a grizzly bear, or a gray wolf, those are the top of the food chain, right?
Yeah, or Kodiak bear. They're also very big. They're like bigger than grizzlies, and like they're mating with polar bears, and they're creating these weird hybrid animals. I know we got off topic from the original thing, but they're very They're a problem out there. But yeah, with the whole Barry Morphy thing, I do remember hearing the chipmunk thing, and I remember hearing about the mountain lion thing, because didn't they find her bike like somewhere like it looked like it was thrown down a mountain or something. I'm like, I don't know if a mountain lion's going to throw a bike after it takes a person up a hill. It's not going to be like, oh wait, I got to go back and get rid of the bike. So
no.
Someone said,
So we had a lot when it all happened. There were a lot of people that did interviews with animal specialists and people, like academics that were studying mountain lions and things like that. And they all came out and said the same thing. There's been something like, I don't know, 9 mountain lion attacks in the last 10 years. And if they do end up attacking a human, that human is usually like on a bicycle or a snowmobile or skiing. And as soon as they get you, they realize, this is, not my food. And then they just leave. So you may be damaged, but they don't go in for the kill. A wolf, a gray wolf, I don't know about some of the smaller breeds, but the gray wolves will absolutely go for the kill. And they don't care that you're a human. But the mountain lions don't do that. A lot of those people out there joke around and say they don't like the taste of human beings.
No, you got to take out the alpha wolf when it comes to a wolf pack. That Liam Neeson movie, what was it, The Gray, really overdoes the whole that was bad. But that's why wolves literally, the only way you can get out of that, because I was doing some research, is you have to take out the alpha, then the pack's in disarray. But I mean, you got to figure out which, I mean, I wouldn't want to take on an alpha wolf. I would, I just be like, no thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nature is very, very odd. And what you mentioned with the mountain lions, that reminds me of the book Zoo. I think it's by James Patterson, when all the animals start acting kind of weird because of whatever was going on. If you haven't read that, it's called Zoo. It's a really interesting book, and it talks about animals doing weird stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. Animals are weird and interesting, but I mean, it's Mother Earth and it's nature. So
that's exactly. And we, the human, when we start disrupting these ecosystems, that's when they start acting kind of bizarre.
Yep. That's for sure. So I'm curious to see how in Colorado that goes with the introduction of the wolves. It sounds like it's going. I mean, if the mountain lions are doing that, I mean, I wonder if they're getting scared of the pack. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So speaking of mountain lions, there was a Belgian Malinois. It was in California. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. A girl and her Malinois were hiking, and the mountain lion, it was starved. It was malnourished. It went after the girl, and the Malinois went after the mountain lion to save her human. I promise this isn't going to end the way everyone thinks it is. So the girl was trying to fight the mountain lion. Luckily, a driver, another girl was in a Jeep, got out, got her tire iron, and they were fighting off the mountain lion because the mountain lion had the dog's head in its mouth. And finally, the mountain lion let go. The dog survived the attack. They took her to the vet and whatnot, and she did well for a really long time, but unfortunately she passed away from complications afterwards. But I mean, the fact that dog was just that's why I say Malinois
to the death.
Malinois have no sense of their own safety. All they want to do is protect their person. And when I heard that story of that dog, I mean, the girl was like, I'm not leaving my dog. And I thought it was really cool. The driver who saw what was happening said, I'm not going to leave her to fight this thing alone. She got out and was helping her fight.
So cool.
But she said she was hitting the mountain lion in the head with the tire iron, and it was just it was thud, thud. And it was the mountain lion just did not care. It's just that's scary. But I mean,
it is. Yeah.
I feel really bad that dog was a hero. But she has the dog's cousin now, the puppy cousin or something like that. So she still has the dog's bloodlines in her family. But it was only a 2-year-old Malinois too. So I was just that dog at age 2 knew its person, knew its purpose, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you think it's an accurate statement that the Belgian Malinois they're really kind of the military's breed of choice, right? For that reason that they are so loyal, and that they will not give up until they either are dead or they win.
I think it's a size thing, honestly, because if you look at pictures of the airborne units that jump out with these dogs, I mean, I'm 120 pounds. If I were to jump out of I guess I really could do it if I had to jump out of C-130 or a repelled on a Blackhawk with a German Shepherd strapped to my chest. That's a 90-pound dog. It's gonna be a little hard. Malinois are more compact, and I say compact, but they're smaller and their size is more manageable, so it's easier to handle.
But they're powerful. They're all muscle.
Yeah, they are. And it is because of, like, you know, some German Shepherds in the heat, or if they're not, I mean, in the Middle East, it's hot. It's not humid like the humidity that we get like here in Pennsylvania. The Shepherds, even still, like, they don't do well with that temperature. Malinois, again, no matter what temperature, they're just driven to work. My Shepherd Malinois mix, she prefers the winter. And she's still active in the summer, but I mean, in the winter, she's like a totally different dog. Like, she does not want to come back inside. So she's just like, nope. But I think it's more so because of the size and the drive, and the hips is the biggest thing, because Shepherds have the hip issues. Malinois don't really have that. So that's the big thing for me. I love them all. I mean, I have 7 right now. I think I'm going to be getting an 8th, because he was a working canine who he went to this rescue that like rehomes working dogs that are, like, you know, don't live.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, the department doesn't need them anymore, or something's going on. His name is Rex. He's missing his 2 lower incisors because he had titanium caps on them, and to put those on, they filed the dog's teeth down, put the caps on. But they had to take them out when he got retired. So he's missing his 2 front lower incisors. So when he has his tongue out, it's like hanging out the side of his mouth. I'm just
so they did the incisors. Is that standard for those dogs?
It depends on the department. I know a couple Secret Service canines who had the titanium teeth. It's more so like a look thing, because when a patrol canine's biting a suspect, you want them biting with their molars and like the back of their mouth, because that's what the grip is for. The incisors in the front are more for like tearing apart like meat and like stuff like that. But when a canine's apprehending someone, you want them to use their back molars to get that grip. Otherwise, if a dog's biting with his front teeth, if a suspect pulls away or something, the dog could get hurt, and they could really risk like really hurting somebody. I mean, I've been bitten by canines by accident when I've worn like the sleeve and the dog missed the sleeve. And let me tell you something. I've never seen so many grown men, grown women cry as when like the dog misses the sleeve and accidentally like gets the elbow or gets the hand or something like that. Oh my God. That is just like, you have a real appreciation for how canines work when that happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
So what's the purpose of the teeth, the steel teeth?
The titanium caps, it's more a look than anything. I mean, yeah, it adds on a little extra, like, because they're biting with their molars, it does add on a little extra, like, I guess, bite in the front. But again, it's more a look than anything, because you can't put them on the molars in the back. It's just, I don't really like it. It's just,
if it's for looks. Yeah, if it's for looks, I don't like it. But if it's there to sort of protect them, like if they attack somebody, maybe it protects their teeth against bone or something like that, then I think it's kind of cool. But I wouldn't want to do that just so that they look like they're badass, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, if they're biting with the front of their teeth like that, then that's not a proper bite work canine. You want them biting with those back molars. That's why we call it a regrip. So if like a suspect's on the ground and like the dog's like biting like their arm, and then like you see the dog like regrip, they're regripping with their back molars to get like a deeper grip. So I mean, it's
yeah,
interesting.
Awesome. Austin said doggy grills.
Doggy grills.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness gracious. No. That'd be cool if it was like all the teeth, but like no, it's the incisors. So it's like 4 inside, and they're expensive too. It's like $2,500 per titanium cap. I'm just like, wait a second.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like, no. Like, I don't, no. We're good with our regular teeth. Like we're fine. So
yeah.
We don't need that, especially if it's for looks. I mean, different people will tell you different things. When I teach patrol canines, we want them to play with them.
I'm gonna have to learn.
Yeah,
that's cool.
They're really cool dogs.
So, doggy grills. We're gonna see it next on Chewy's. They're gonna be selling.
Austin's got to come up with a line now of doggy grills, and like,
yes.
So cool.
So funny. Look, if my vet, listen, I have the most expensive veterinarian on the planet. If my vet were to run across this, I have no doubt they would be putting out doggy grills, charging $5,000.
Oh my goodness. I have to take Marley and Loki to the vet tomorrow to get their rabies shots, and Loki's really bad at the vet. He's got no chill. He just wants to I don't know. It's not that he's like a mean dog. He gets super anxious. He just, I don't know. And like someone said, cutting dog's ears back to make him look vicious. Yeah, there was a lot of the Michael Vick pit bulls when I heard about them being rescued. I'm so glad they rescued those dogs. There's a book about that actually.
It was a horrible situation. Horrible.
Yeah, when he came to Philadelphia and I found out about that, I was just like, this is why I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm a Packers fan. But I mean, nope, Michael Vick, no. Like when I found out Philadelphia picked him up, I'm like, you've made me lose all faith because
yes,
that I know everyone deserves a second chance and whatnot, but it's just like I can't forgive him for what he did. Like knowing those dogs were hurting, I just can't. Like, how can you hurt a doggy? So,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So,
one
more question, and I know it's getting really low. Oh, it's 2:20. One more question. So, a lot of people have questioned or wondered, is there something that can be sprayed that would interfere with a dog, like red pepper, or is there something that might interfere with the dog picking up a scent?
So yes and no. It all depends on, again, the dog's training. This is why I said you put a dog off odor. So there's not like one specific, and Mythbusters actually disproved this too. There's not one specific scent that can throw a dog off. But if it's like I mentioned Gator with the peanut butter thing, and like Gator has been trained through, because he was a DOC dog, he's been trained to, like, people used to wash their clothes in the facility and people would send them gifts and whatnot. And like, it all really depends on what the dog's put off of. So like, let's say a brand new dog who's never been exposed to red pepper before, never been exposed to bleach. Yeah, it's going to throw off the dog's scent. It really all depends on how well the dog's trained.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, that's why it's really, it's a yes and no question. I'm sorry if that's not a good answer, but it all depends on what the dog is trained on. But I would look up, the Mythbusters did an episode on this. They had a guy wear like someone else's shoes. They had a guy like drop like pepper spray, and they did all kinds of stuff like that to like see, and it was debunked that the dog couldn't track somebody. And they used a couple different dogs. So yeah, mom and up exactly. I'm the same way. Someone be like, "Oh, on this thing," I'm like, "No, I gotta watch this."
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it is. So like, again, Gator, for example, I've never tried a red pepper with him per se, but I know it's something I could, I guess. I don't have red pepper in my house just on hand, but I mean, I take him to training all the time, and like we run through training scenarios. Like we set off little sparkler things. It's like a noise distraction for him, because some dogs get distracted by noises and you don't want them to do that. So like we'll take him to like we call it a quote unquote shoot house. It's simulation rounds. It's not actual bullets that are going on. And like we deploy Gator like into the building to go apprehend somebody, and they have all kinds of stuff. And if he's a patrol canine, he can't be running out of the building when that's going on. That's honestly the hardest part about having a canine who's a certified patrol canine, is the knowing. That makes me cry every time when I think about, like, what if one of these days, like, I'm the first person to respond with him to something, and it's a patrol job where he has to go in and apprehend somebody. Luckily, he has a Street Fighter vest is what we call it. It's a stab-proof, bulletproof vest, but I mean, it doesn't protect his head or his, like, his legs, but like, that's the hardest part for me, is like, there's a video of this one handler who he was taking his canine in, and he was crying, and he kept saying, I'm sorry, over and over to his dog, because he knew that this person had a weapon. Luckily, the dog had the vest. The dog was shot 3 times, all in the vest.
Wow.
The dog did survive, but still just...
Yeah, but it hurts like hell to get shot in the vest.
Yeah, somebody said I heard peppercorns throws them off, so, I mean... I've never heard of a dog trained to smell specifically for peppercorns, but I mean, I don't know what a peppercorn is. Is that just like, I don't know what a peppercorn is. Is that just like little balls of pepper, or what is that?
I think it's like the seed that hasn't been chopped up into pepper.
Oh, it probably works just like, gator with peanut butter, or gator like with the food, like you put them off of something. I mean, I've never tried.
Yeah, we had a family friend who was sheriff's department. He had like the drug dog. And he used to use, like when he was like just brushing up with training and practicing and stuff, he used to use like Subway sandwiches, things like that, just to teach the dog not to get distracted.
Yeah, and Snazzle Dazzle, I do never take a breath. I try to rush out a bunch all at once, so it's just like peppercorn's not oh my god. People are funny in the comments. But yeah, that's the Subway sandwiches. I've heard of that. You want to put a dog off of food because you don't want distractions. Because like some people have asked me, like, well, don't in the military they teach you how to throw off a scent dog? Well, there is SEER school that you can go to, and they talk about it. Let's say I'm behind SEER schools. If you're held as a prisoner of war, you're trapped on enemy lines, how to escape. And like one thing they'll teach us, they teach us about, survivability. Like at one point in time, they drop you off in this village and like they give you like a chicken and a couple other animals and like barely enough water. They teach you how to like use the chicken to have as like a source of food and stuff like that. They talk about throwing off canine scents, but even the instructors are like, good luck to you on that one because a canine is, they're canines. So
yeah, and they say that the worst thing to do is to get in the water, because when the water drips off of you, it's actually carrying more of your skin cells and scent than if you were just dry.
Yeah, your scent's amplified with that. So
Yep.
I mean, it just, again, people think, oh, if I run through water, no, because like I just did a video we filmed it to release it. Gator, we had a decoy run through a creek, whatever we call it, creek here in Pennsylvania.
We call it a creek in Louisiana too.
Runs through and then like is hiding on the other side of the embankment, and he just goes right through it. But I mean, Marley, who I just started teaching tracking with, like she ran to the river and she knew something was going somewhere, and she started whining and pacing because like she hasn't gotten to that level Gator's at yet. So she knows something's on the other side. It's just that she's new at it. We haven't certified for tracking yet. Marley's my explosives dog, so we're working on certifying for tracking next. But yeah, it's I'm excited to get her there, but I'm excited for everyone to see the video because we're leaving the blooper reel on there because at one point in time I'm running with Gator and I totally fall and slip in like a puddle of mud, and it was great. I was just like, this is fun. It was fantastic, but it's like 3:30 or something to go. But thank you for having me up. I really appreciated it. We'll have to do this again with Julie one day because I know she wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. I just could talk about animals and dogs just all day. I love it. So
yeah, absolutely.
You have great information. Conversations with you are so interesting.
Yeah, and thank you, Jules, for all that you do. I mean, I always appreciate your insight. I always love catching you whenever you're on panel and hanging out. So thank you so much for everything, and to everyone in chat for being so nice. And just as Jane said it earlier, thank you for being so nice to me because I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions and stuff. So I really appreciate you being so nice to me.
No, you don't even have to mention it. There's a lot of nonsense goes on the streets of YouTube. I just deal with the people that seem very logical and normal. So
yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, Jules. I really appreciate it. And good night, everybody. Have a safe night and good night.
Good night and Happy New Year, Jules.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. So we are here now 3 hours later, and we have only made it about a third of the way through this video. We seem to do that, don't we? But it has been just such a great conversation. Like I said, I just admire what Jules does, her knowledge that she has about these highly trained animals. And, my own, y'all know, I run like Noah's Ark at my house. So yes, Pretty Bird, buried behind bars, is fast asleep right now. So he and Fancy behind bars are doing great. Thank you for asking. I had to jump down and rescue her. Thank you for clearing that all up about Max. Yeah, absolutely. It's good. So I think it is 2:30, and I am going to be getting up in a little while to go to work. So I better go ahead and shut this down so I can get at least a few hours of sleep. And you guys need to go to sleep too. Y'all need your beauty rest, right? All right. So thank you guys for being here. Tomorrow I will be live and we'll do the next part of this video and continue this search for fact versus BS. And try to get rid of all the nonsense that they're putting out that is not, it's not even factual. The green hoodie person is a woman. It's not an old dude, even though SF Investigates claims that Katie told him that it was an old dude. So it's so strange why they would lie about it, but they did. So that is what we're trying to do. I like this interview that JLR did with Bobby because it was done soon after the disappearance of Sebastian, when her memory would have been fresh. And that's what we need to be listening to, not what she's saying now, after there's been time for her memory to decay, for Christopher Proudfoot to threaten and intimidate. It's much better to go back to her original statement. All right. Cover off, Barry. Let's go. Cover's off. He's literally sleeping. He's probably thinking, is that woman ever going to quit talking? So, all right, everybody. Yeah, there are some channels that are still saying that it's a man. And I mean, it's not. We can see clearly that it's a female. So it's really, really strange that they told that lie. It's just incomprehensible. Why would they do that? It's very, very strange. But they've done a lot of strange things and they've said a lot of strange things. So I'm trying to get back to what are the things that we know are actually true. For example, people talk about, me, myself included, people talk about, no, Katie was the last one with Sebastian. He walked out on the porch, yada, yada. Do you know, technically, we have absolutely no reason at all to believe that Sebastian ever stepped out on that front porch, including scent. We don't have any reason to believe that. None. And the person supposedly that took trash down to the road, you cannot tell who the person is. You cannot even tell if it's a male or a female, according to Bobby and according to Seth, who law enforcement showed the film to. So the truth is, the last known proof of life was the parking lot of the Texas Roadhouse. And I don't know what you do with that. You know, there's an awful lot about this case that is disturbing. Very, very disturbing. All right. So SF is building a resume for fake news. CNN would love him. He is a fixer. I am convinced of that. His job is to go around and help creepy people get out of the binds that they put themselves in. Yeah. Schnemzy is a number 144. There you go, Schnemzy. Better go buy that lottery ticket. All right. Okay. So thank you guys for being here. I sure do appreciate you more than you know. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will, just because I don't like post regularly. And when my work gets busy, then it may be a week or two before I'm on. So if you subscribe, then at least you get a notification that I put something new up or that I'm live. And please hit the thumbs up. It helps other people find this video. So you guys are awesome. Happy New Year to all of you. I got a feeling about 2025. I think it's going to be off the hook. Awesome. I think we're all going to win the lottery and be millionaires. All right. Y'all sleep well. Happy New Year. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay. Good night.